What's up everyone, Caden the Great Western Engine, back with another video ripping apart CGI Fireman Sam, sort of. But I'm mostly here to talk about my retrospective on Fireman Sam as a whole. And it actually does have similar parallels to Thomas. In terms of history, both started out as a series of books, then the TV adaptation would air in a classic model form during the first 4 seasons. Then Hit Entertainment would buy the franchises and would make their own model series that would somewhat deviate from the classic series. Then the shows would switch to the flawed CGI animation, with the first couple seasons being pretty bad. But then, as the shows went on, they would begin to improve, and the episodes would start to get good again, only for the shows to completely drop back down in quality in the last few seasons. Luckily, we haven't yet gotten an all engines go for Fireman Sam yet. But is it really the case that the show got better over time before going downhill? Well, let's find out. Around 1986, Rob Lee has decided to write and illustrate a series of 4 Fireman Sam books: Butterfly Cat, Sam's Windy Day, Sam's Forgetful Day, and Norman's Naughty Day. However, the books weren't that popular, and unlike Thomas, it wasn't intended to be a book series, as it was always intended to be a TV series that would spawn 1 year later. And the show is what made the franchise massively popular. It was animated in stop motion. Even if animation can be a bit cheap at times, it was still great. The stories were entertaining, great and enjoyable characters. Excellent action that's done in ways where it makes us fear about what's going to happen in the emergencies. A very charming sense of humor, great music, and great voice acting done by John Alderton, who voices every single character in the show. We also get fire vehicles called Jupiter and Venus. Kind of funny how the vehicles are named after the planets in the solar system. Strangely, the first 4 seasons were not 26 episodes, nor were they 13, but 8 to 9 episodes each, which would later become the norm for most TV shows nowadays. After season 4 ended, Hit Entertainment bought the franchise and would revive it for a 5th season more than 10 years later. And starting with this season onwards, the episode count would rise up to 26 episodes, which wasn't completely the problem during that time. And this season overall is very good. However, I do think it's a bit overrated, and James A. Williams is hyping it up a bit too much. Sure, the animation is a huge step up from the first 4 seasons. The sets look much more realistic than they were in the previous seasons. Yet it still managed to look more faithful to the sets from before. But in higher quality, the voice acting was fantastic, as it was done by 3 actors this time, and they did a wonderful job at trying to give them distinctive voices, even if some can be a bit questionable.
If your tiger is a pet, it's not coming in my shop. Where do you think you're going with those, Norman Price?
And it gave the original crew members like Norman Price a lot more character. He gets a lot more stories focused around him. But not to the point where he would cause every single emergency in every episode, but rather, they gave him a best friend in Mandy, and a pet lamb called Wooly, and the new theme song is a banger, and is more action-packed than before. And it mostly does a good job at modernizing the show, while also keeping the charm and most of the continuity of the first 4 seasons. But even with that said, some of the continuity is incorrect, like Trevor is no longer an auxiliary fireman, as he used to be, and Sam doesn't invent stuff as often as he used to. Even some of the episodes can have a lack of continuity at times. That I wouldn't go as far as to call it a sequel season, like James A. Williams calls it, but rather its own continuity. Overall, despite its flaws, Season 5 is still a good season that's worth watching. But after the 5th season ended, the show got revived again. But this time they decided not to continue it in stop motion, and instead it switched to CGI, and I used to think that the Sura was decent. But then I watched James A. Williams's rant on it, and come to realize how bad it truly is. Even though I don't think the earlier CGI seasons are as bad as I used to think. They're very mediocre, and it would later get worse in the later Mattel seasons. But oh boy, we'll truly rip them apart later. For now, let's address one of the biggest problems with the CGI series. This shouldn't need to exist. Why? They already revived the series once before, with the 5th season, and it was a great revival to the series for the most part. Sure, it looks different from the first 4 seasons. And sure, some elements are absent in Season 5. But even then, it still did a decent job at continuing most of the continuity of the first 4 seasons. The CGI series, however, has almost none of the continuity of the previous seasons, and is overall disrespectful to the source material. The characters look very different. Like Sam's head is now shaped the same oval shape as Elvis. Norman Price has square glasses instead of the circular ones for some reason. Dilys looks nothing like before, and her shop has also undergone a redesign. Pontypandy's layout is very different, as it is now located near the ocean, which makes no sense, because it's supposed to be based on two real-life towns, Pontypid and Tonypandy. And both of these locations are nowhere close to the ocean. The fire station now has 2 garage doors instead of 1. Mike Flood now has a van and a workshop, and Bella Lasagna is absent for a while, just because she was a racial stereotype. Which makes sense, I guess. The test pilot, however, is a lot worse, and looks nothing like Season 5. Everything looks American, like the Jupiter, the modern uniforms, everything. If this was the final product, this Woolvelt looked even more like a reboot. The characters have also gotten dumbed down, or exaggerated. In other words, were flanderized beyond recognition. Elvis Cridlington has transformed from being a friendly, yet slightly dim-witted firefighter, who had a fair share of dumb moments, into one who acts like an incompetent idiot and is terrible at his job of being a firefighter. He gets easily scared of being in helicopter harness, even though he is an actual fireman. Called the fire department when there is a fire in the kitchen, instead of just simply getting a fire extinguisher. His incompetence is so bad in the CGI series, it makes me wonder why he chose to be a firefighter in the first place. While Station Officer Steele is still more competent than Elvis Cridlington, he has transformed from a strict and mature authority figure into a silly doofus who has a weird obsession of kids' toys and never properly reprimands Elvis whenever he does something wrong. Other than yelling things like Cridlington, which isn't saying much, neither does he give Norman that much of a punishment, other than to let him off with a warning. Sarah and James have transformed from kind and caring siblings who both loved each other no matter what, into jerkish siblings who constantly bicker and one-up each other 24/7 for no reason or rhyme whatsoever. And the worst, character assassination and butchering of all time. Norman Price. He has transformed from a cheeky, naughty and mischievous little scamp who would play tricks on everyone, while also caring about their safety, into such an unbearable, selfish, spoiled, whiny, bratty, annoying, irresponsible, troublesome, unintelligent, untrustworthy, unreliable, irredeemable jerk who always does the most illegal, evil, and dangerous things for the pettiest reasons. He is also the most responsible for being the only one causing every single emergency in every single episode. He is the most responsible for stealing wooden wheel blocks from Mike's van just so he can make and ride on his stupid go-kart, forcing his mom to hang a huge Santa decoration, driving off Jupiter with his cousin Derek just because he thinks he's the know-it-all expert who knows how to be a firefighter just from playing a video game, deliberately setting off the fire alarm just so he can get his football back, refusing to own up to it, going sailing with his mom Dilys without Penny's permission, resulting in him losing one of his oars and stranding himself and his mom out at sea, releasing his sky lantern when he wasn't supposed to, only to set the forest on fire, trying to manipulate Mandy into setting off a flare they found, only for it to backfire as she gave it to Penny, who ended up being stuck on the cliffs, getting himself Dilys, Mandy, Helen, Mike and Moose all locked out at the lighthouse balcony, just to get out of washing Mike's van, convincing James to go up to the high steep roof of the fire station, just so they can watch a rescue demonstration, stealing sausages from his mom's shop to a camping trip, when he wasn't legally allowed to, and going off cooking them in the middle of a forest, in hot summer weather, ignoring the warnings about not making a campfire, and not putting it out in time, causing the entire forest to be on fire, nearly bringing the end to Pontypandy, almost forcing the town to evacuate and leave and let the town burn in the unbeatable fire. And I can really go on for hours about all this. Moreover, every warning Sam or the fire brigade would let him off with would immediately be forgotten about by the very beginning of the next episode, and nothing else, unlike in the stop-motion era. And worst of all, he rarely ever gets punished for his greedy and selfish actions. The only quote-unquote punishment he gets is a stern telling off from Sam, saying things like, "Don't do it again," and the occasional chore. And that's it. Now angry, scolding, no kicking him out, no calling the police to arrest him either. Even the other characters that are likable are now reduced from having multiple character traits to just having one. Sam is still no longer that keen in inventing or spending time with his friends and relatives like Sarah and James. He just likes to be a firefighter 24/7. Trevor is never given interesting stories, etc. Also, apart from all the aforementioned redesigns, the animation done by Zing Zing Digital looks offensively bad, and really hasn't aged well, with Season 6 and 7 being the worst offenders, as it literally looks like Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, and is easily some of the worst CG animation for any kid's show. The lighting is not very complex, the colors are washed out and looked ever so dull. The character animations are very stilted and forced. The water and smoke effects look very poor, and the characters can look very ugly at times, and there is So many animation errors throughout these seasons, like Station Officer Steele's mouth not moving when he says come here.
Come here!
Or one of Jupiter's badges going missing in the intro. However, starting with the 8th season, the animation would switch to HD animation, and it looks much better here. The shading is a lot better, and the character movements would start to get a bit better. But even then, it's still not perfect, and the water and smoke effects still look poor. The voice acting isn't really that great. While the voices for most of the firefighters and the other adults are fine, Elvis's voice is really annoying and ear-piercing to listen to, and it makes him sound a lot dumber than before.
I couldn't help noticing that Station Officer Steele and the guinea pig look a bit the same.
And the voices for the kids, especially in the UK dub, are unbelievably annoying and just unbearable to listen to, as they sound so much like adults forcing themselves to sound like 8-year-old kids. Norman sounds like a terrible cross between Jar Jar Binks and Carl Weezer, but with a Welsh accent.
Really, Mum, it wasn't. This alarm must be faulty. You know new things always go wrong.
And it gets even worse in this scene.
I'm so sorry, Mum. It's all my fault. I set the alarm off. I just wanted my ball back.
And Sarah and James have arguably the most annoying and ear-piercing voices in all of cartoon history.
It's not as big as my mackerel.
Oh, come on! It's way bigger!
It doesn't help that both him and Norman are voiced by the exact same voice actor, as they both sound almost no different from each other.
Come up, James. Let's get a bit closer. I can't move.
Which would later be improved, starting with Season 8, as John Hasler would take the role James for the rest of the series, and while it does sound a bit better, it's still not that great.
My science party will be way better than your football party.
The emergencies in the CGI series are heavily watered down. Before, the emergencies in action were intense, and made you fear on what was going to happen. But here, they are way too simple, predictable, and not very threatening, and lack a sense of action due to its slow pacing in these seasons, and the music that goes with it really isn't that good to listen to, and it would get very dull and repetitive. While it does have the same theme as Season 5, there is a boring section at the end, not from the original, that never seems to stop playing until the rescue is over. Anyways, Season 8 and 9 were probably the best seasons of this era, as the animation would start to improve, and James would be voiced by John Hasler, as mentioned previously, and after Season 9, we would finally get a US dub for the show. That would fix some of the problems with the UK dub. The child voice acting is a lot more tolerable, especially Norman, as they brought actual children to voice them.
Me? Derek, you go in the middle. You were the first one up here.
Even some of the more notable animation errors were fixed here.
Hey!
After 4 seasons of mediocre and bad episodes, the CGI series would start to get better. Beginning with the special Heroes of the Storm, the show would start to become enjoyable again. This special would give us a new fire station, which I know a lot of fans don't like it because they don't like change. But I'm in the minority when I say that it's a decent enough change, as it still has respect for the original series and doesn't do anything silly.
Couldn't have a new fire station without the old bell. Or the old picture.
It introduced new but young firefighters, like Ellie and Arnold.
Wow! A 4-wheel drive longitudinal front-engine 6-cylinder high-compression turbo diesel.
That's right, Thomas fans. Fireman Thomas is a thing. Ever since Thomas Theorist made a video about Arnold, he became a meme in this community. This guy not only has Thomas's voice, but also looks facially like Thomas. He has Thomas's eyebrows, his nose, his eyes, etc. I know the real timeline is that this was a year before John Hasler got the role of Thomas in The Adventure Begins.
I'm looking forward to learning from the best. Fireman Sam. Always wanted to come here. Hello?
But it's still very funny. He also serves as this tech nerd emoji of the fire brigade. And I think him knowing all about technology in his 20s was a really clever choice. He also even has funny moments too, like when he screams in Thomas's voice while doing a somersault. And especially this line.
Well, I didn't really do anything.
It's very funny and very true because he didn't really do anything in the series. Animation was at its best here. And in Season 10, Ella Lasani finally made an appearance. These seasons aren't perfect, however, as it's now revealed that she moved to Newtown for no logical reason, as she was doing just fine at her cafe, which would later be retconned into a restaurant. The characters are still in their Flanderized traits, especially Norman Price, who was at his absolute worst in this season. He literally put James in danger, twice, by tying him to a chair for some stunt video. In a room covered in flammable liquid, and in another episode, he purposefully traps James in the changing rooms with glue, just so he can do some stupid frog dance. And I feel like the Brenner era set the bar too high. Anyways, aside from the Norman stuff, this season is an improvement over season 6 to 9, and same can be said about season 11, which was an even better season, as a new animation team would come to animate Fireman Sam after some massive controversy regarding an animation error, and it looks very good and more colorful, and suits the series very well in my opinion. And the rescue scenes are a lot more satisfying, and has been consistently solid for the rest of time. However, both seasons 11 and 12 were strangely cut to 13 episodes. Maybe it's because the new animation team in DHX Media was just getting started on the series. Speaking of season 12, while this was a fine season, it was the start of the show's slow downfall, as modern phones exist in this series, which feels a bit out of place for Fireman Sam. And I'm now beginning to question, what time period does Fireman Sam take place in? It can't be the current decade, the 2020s, because the firemen are still in old uniforms, just with a few upgrades. My guessing here is that it's supposed to take place in the 1980s, back when the show started, but you can't do that now when you have modern technology and the internet.
Says here that you're the Rocket Pogo Panic Boy?
It's got the most views ever! You're famous, Norman!
The rescue theme was changed to an even more boring, unlistenable song.
Fireman Sam, my mom's inside! Please hurry!
Don't worry, Norman. We'll get her out.
And the show would no longer have a US dub. Luckily, Norman Price started to slowly tone down his antagonistic behavior, as he would begin to cause less emergencies, only doing it half of the time. The new police officers don't arrest him, they just do the same warning thing that Sam always does. Overall, despite their flaws, season 10 to 12 are very fine and enjoyable seasons. I just hope it doesn't get any more worse from here. Just when I thought the CGI series couldn't get any worse, it all of a sudden got even worse. Season 13 to 16 are by far the worst Fireman Sam seasons of all time, and is further proof of why Mattel ruins everything. Just like how Disney ruins everything, especially the longest and beloved franchises. These seasons are so unbelievably bad they ultimately make seasons 6 to 9 look like Bluey. The episodes have reverted back to 26 episodes, and the plots became extremely repetitive and lazier just to make the episodes longer. More firefighters started to act like a bunch of idiots when they're not rescuing anyone, with the only exceptions being Sam and Officer Steele, and the changes. Don't even get me started on the fact that Mattel is now modernizing and Americanizing a British show that takes place in Wales. In season 13, Helen Flood is a firefighter for some reason. Her and some of the other quote-unquote black characters got recasted just to be more politically correct, which is understandable. The characters no longer say call Fireman Sam, it's changed to call the rescue team.
We need to call Fireman Sam!
Better call the rescue team.
Also, starting with Norman and the Mystery Sky, Venus is redesigned in a color swap, and I do not like it. I prefer the red one over this. In season 14, which ultimately sped up the downfall of the series, all the firefighters have their new modern uniforms that imitates the modern years, as most firefighters no longer wear the same uniforms that the crew wore in the first 13 seasons. The problem, however, is that they look terrible, and have way too many design details, such as pockets, GPSs, walkie-talkies, that make it such a cluttered mess to look at, especially compared to the more timeless original designs. And even if their uniforms did get updated in Heroes of the Storm, they weren't too egregious, and looked just fine compared to here, and starting with here onwards. The theme song is changed to saying the rescue team, and not just Sam himself. And something I've noticed in those seasons is that Sam isn't the front main character anymore, as it started focusing more on the special service. All of this would have been a problem if the title wasn't referring to just Fireman Sam himself. And in season 15,
Yes, Ellie. We've had Jupiter for quite a while now, and we thought it was time for an upgrade.
Done!
Just look what they have done to Jupiter. Now it looks like an airport fire truck. Worst of all, there is absolutely no reason to change it. While the new uniforms suck, at least there's a reason for it. There is absolutely zero reason to redesign Jupiter. Zero. The original basis for Jupiter is still being used everywhere in Britain. Why redesign it instead, other than to Americanize the series? How much more do I have to get through? Just one more season. Thank God I'm almost done. In season 16, more changes happened. The kids got new clothes, which I think look very good. Wallaby 2 got a new paint job that I really don't like. And lastly,
Fireman Sam and the rescue team are back this season with an exciting big reveal. A brand new state-of-the-art fire station. Get ready for the emergency and slide your way down to Fun Rescue.
they absolutely Paw Patrolled Fireman Sam, first Thomas. Now this. I am so done with Mattel. Luckily in these seasons, the animation improved massively. At times it looks like season 5. And Norman Price's antagonistic behavior is rarely shown in these seasons, as it's a lot more toned down. And he only caused trouble in 2 episodes in season 16, just in time for the show's downfall. There is some news regarding a potential season 17, but man, after 4 seasons of just stupid, nonsensical, repetitive, nightmarish garbage, I do not want to see a season 17. I think it should be cancelled. Seriously, this monstrous company has been milking this show to death. It absolutely needs a permanent final episode. Sadly, I don't see that happening anytime soon. Now I know some of you are going to go to the comments section and say that it's just a kids show, and that I shouldn't get mad about it. I hate this term so much. I get that it's a kids show, but kids seriously deserve better than this. In fact, kids shows can still be good. Like seasons 10 to 12, managed to be at least okay, and Bluey is one of the best modern kids shows of all time. These new CGI seasons era literally just brain rot the TV show. The show should have been cancelled after season 11 or 12, or maybe even season 4 or 5. Mattel should have never bought the show, and it should be cancelled and replaced with whatever, right now. And that was my retrospective and thoughts on Fireman Sam so far. I loved the show during its prime. I loved season 5 too, despite its continuity issues. I thought season 6 to 12 were not as good as the previous 5 seasons. But they did get better, with time with season 10 to 12, and now I despise the newest seasons. I know I said that season 13 was a good season, and while I do think it's the best season of the downfall era, it's not a very good season because of what I said earlier. I also want to apologize for the lag in some footages. The downloading app called Yacht has increased the rate limit from downloading 3 videos and then a 30-minute break to 1 download a day, and I couldn't find any downloading website that downloads hundreds of videos without upgrading to Pro, something I tried to do, and it didn't work, so I had to screen record most of the footage with Bandicam, but the watermark is removed for the most part. So if it does lag in some shots, that's why. I just wanted to get this out as soon as possible. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next vid.